Hello friends, welcome to TechEJ YouTube channel. Friends, in this video we are going to discuss about the Azure administrator question. So basically in this video we are discuss the questions related to the Azure storage. Okay, so without wasting our time, so let's move on our question number one. So here we have an storage account named storage1 that contains a blob container named container1. You need to prevent new content added to container1 from being modified for 1 year. What should you configure? So basically option number A is here the access tier, option number B is an access policy, option number C is the access control IAM setting, and D is the access level. So here we can clearly, after studying the question carefully, we can see here it's talking about the access policy. So option number B is the correct one here. Okay. So let's move on the question number 2. So here question number 2 says you have an Azure storage account named storage1 that contains a blob container. The blob container has a default access tier of hot, and storage was contains a container named container1. You create a lifecycle management rules in storage1 as shown in the following table. Like this is the rule 1 and rule 2, which rule scope is limit blobs by using filters, blobs type is block blobs, and many more. You can see the further information. And here you perform the actions shown in the following table. So here on October 1 you upload 3 files named dip1 file1.docs, file2.docs, and file3.docs to container1. And on October 2 we added the dip1 file1.docs and file3.docs, and on October 5 we edit file2.docs. So for each of the following statement, select yes if the statement is true, otherwise select no. So here a note is given, each correct selection is worth 1 point. So here what is the rule block? So if base blobs were not modified for 2 days, move to archive storage. If base blobs were not modified for 9 days, delete the blob. And this is the prefix match for our container. Okay, and here is rule 2, rule block contain. If base blobs were not modified for 3 days, move to the cool storage. If base blobs were not modified for 9 days, move to the archive storage. But on October 1 we can say we upload 3 files named department1 file1 docs, file2.docs, and file3.docs to container1. And on October 2 we edit the department1 file.docs and file2 file3.docs, and on October 5 we also edit the file2.docs. So here on October 10 you can read department1 file1.docs. So we go on to department1 file1.docs. Department1 file1.docs is basically edited to October 2. So we are trying to accessing on October 10. So this file is not deleted because here our rules say basically file can be basically deleted after the 9 days, but here file is edited on 2, and here we are trying to read is department1 file.docs file on October 10. So here we are able to access it. So here we tick on yes, and on October 10 you can read file2.docs, basically yes. Okay, so I also choose here yes. On October 10 you can read file3.docs, file3.docs. Okay, yes, this is basically edited on October 2, and file3.docs So here we can also able to read that file. Okay, so here also we choose option yes. So all the here is yes. So let's move to our next question. So here we have an on-premises server that contains a folder named d colon folder 1. You need to copy the contents of d folder 1 to the public container in an Azure storage account named contoso data. So which command should you run? So basically here we have to we have a folder d folder 1 to the, and here we have to copy it to the public container which is located in Azure storage account. Okay, so here we have to basically upload that contents of this folder 1. So here we use as a copy command, as a copy, and here is our location which we are trying to upload, and this is the our server, basically server address. So option number C is clear here. Clearly we can go to option number C, because if you do some hands-on, then this command is basically used for that purpose. Okay, so let's try to understand question number 4. So here we have an Azure subscription. In the Azure portal you plan to create a storage account named storage 1 that will have the following setting. Performance is standard, replication is JDRS, and access tier is cool, and hierarchical name is disabled. So you need to ensure that you can set account kind for storage 1 to blob storage. Which setting should you modify first? So here first of all it's talking about the performance, because here we are going to it is standard. So here we simply go with option A, because here performance is more matter than others in plan. Okay, so let's move to further question. So here we have an Azure subscription named subscription 1 that contains the storage accounts shown in the following table. So here name, account kind, and Azure service that contains data is given here. And you plan to use the Azure import export service to export data from subscription 1, and you need to identify which storage account can be used to export the data. What should you identify? So basically we can if we are going to use Azure import export, then we can only export the blob files, whereas we can import the block and file both types, but we can only export the blob types. So here clearly storage 4 is the winner here, so we choose the option number D. Okay, so here option number D is the correct answer. So I think storage section is the most easiest section of Azure admin examination, whereas Azure Active Directory is the most hardest section of the exam. So let's try to understand the next question. So here we have a Azure storage account is shown in the following exhibit. So this exhibit is shown, you can see it. Now the question is asking about use the drop down menus to select the answer choice that complete each statement based on the information presented in the graphics. Not each correct selection is worth 1 point. So for Azure table storage, so you can use for Azure table storage. So for Azure table storage we can use the storage account 1 and the storage account 2, because storage kind here we are going to see the kind, only kind is method here. So here storage, if you notice on storage, so this is the storage version 1, and storage version 1 also have the feature of Azure table storage. So storage version 1 and storage version 2, whereas blob storage only can be used for the storing the blobs. Okay, so here we go with the storage account 1 and storage account 2. So here is the option storage account 1 and storage account 2 only. So you can use for Azure blob storage. So for Azure blob storage, we can use all the types like storage and storage version 2 and blob storage. So here storage account 1, storage account 2, storage account 3, all are can be used. So here all the storage account is the right one. Okay, all the storage accounts is the right one here. So let's move further. So let's try to understand this question. So you have an Azure subscription that includes data in the following locations. Basically name and type is given here. So let's move further. So you plan to export data by using Azure import export job named export1. You need to identify that the data can be exported by using export1. Which data should you identify? So basically, as I mentioned in previous question, we can only use import export for only exporting the blob types of data. So here we can only export the blob containers. Okay, so here container 1 is the right one, so here container 1 is the right one, so we don't have to explore further. Okay, so let's try to understand the next question. You have an Azure storage account named storage1. You have an Azure app service app named app1 and an app named app2 that runs in Azure container instance. Each app uses a managed identity. So try to scan the keywords here. So you need to ensure that app1 and app2 can read blobs from storage1. The solution must meet the following requirements. Minimize the number of secrets used. Ensure that app2 can only read from storage1 for the next 30 days. So what should you configure in storage1 for each app? To answer, select the appropriate option in the answer area. So here it says the minimize the number of secrets used. So here in answer area we have app1. So here we have access key option, advanced security, access control, IAM, shared access signature. So here we can simply go with the IAM, but problem is here. It also have some more requirement. Each app uses a managed identity. So you have an Azure app services app named and name to run in Azure container. So here we can simply go with the IAM for controlling this. Otherwise we can also use the access key, but here if we want to minimize the number of secrets used, so we have to use the IAM for app1 and for app2. For app2 it's talking about the we can only read from storage1 for the next 30 days. So here is the time limit, so here we have to use shared access signatures. So by providing the shared access signature, we can give the time period for the access of our basically apps. Okay, so let's move further. So here shared access signature SAS is used for app2. Okay, so let's move further. You need to create an Azure storage account that meets the following requirement: minimize cost, support hot, cool, and RQ blob types, and provide fault tolerance if a disaster affects the Azure region where the account resides. How should you complete the command? To answer, select the appropriate option to the answer area. So basically here we have the requirement to minimize the cost and also support of hot, cool, and RQ blob tiers, and provide fault tolerance if disaster affects the Azure region. So it's talking about the multi-region. Okay, so here the command we have to complete this command basically. So let's try to understand this. So here we have the command Azure storage account, AJ storage account, create -G -G, resource group 1 -N, storage account 1, kind is storage version 2 because storage version 2 have all the requirement mentioned above, and SKU is standard GRS because geo-redundant storage here is our requirement to store it to the multiple region. Okay, and also there is a required support hot, cool, and RQ blob tiers. So this is the right one. Here storage version 2, here we use storage version 2, and here we use standard GRS for SKU. Okay, so let's move further. So this is the right answer. Okay, here So let's move further to question number 10. So here we have an Azure subscription that contains the resources in the following table. So this is there is the name and type, and here we store one contains a file share name data. Data consists 5000 files. You need to synchronize the file in the file share name data to an on-premises server named server1. Which three actions would you perform? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. So here I think we have to perform all the action in current order. So here we have to first of all register our server one, and after that we have to install the Azure file sync agent on our server, and after that we have to create a sync group. So here first of all we register our server one. So B is the comes first, and after that C is come, and after that E. So here these three options are correct: register server one, and then install the Azure file sync agent on server one, and then we have to create a sync group. So let's try to understand the next question. So you have an Azure subscription that contains the resources shown in the following table. The status of VM1 is running, and you assign that policy. So basically Azure pass platform as a service resource group 2, and policy definition: not allowed resource type, not allowed resource type, assigned by first user, parameters to selected, assign. So you assign the policy by using the following parameters: Microsoft Classic Network, Virtual Network, Microsoft Network, Virtual Networks, and Microsoft Compute Virtual Networks. And this what this policy do? Basically, it not allow these resources here. Okay. So vnet1 resource group 1, resource group. Okay, vnet1 belongs to resource group 1, and type is virtual network, and VM1 is the machine. So let's try to understand this. So here is the area. An administrator can move vnet1 to resource group 2. So let's check here. vnet1 to resource group 2. An administrator can move no. So basically we can say no, because we cannot move vnet from one resource group to another resource group when this policy is assigned. So the state of VM1 is changed to deallocated. So here we can say simply yes, the state of VM1 changed to deallocated, yes. But in some cases, if our VM is already running and we assign this policy, but we did not basically so apply this. Okay, so in median time our VM can run, but after taking the policy above policy in effect, so the state of VM1 is changed to deallocated. So here we choose yes, and an administrator can modify the address space of VNet to I think after applying this policy, answer is no. Okay, so we are here we are talking about the when this policy is in effect. Okay, we are not talking about the when policy is not effect. So here we are talking about when policy is in effect. Okay, after the effect of policy. Okay, so here no, yes, no. Okay, so let's move to our further questions. Here we have to drag and drop. So let's try to understand the question. So you have an on-premises server named server1 that runs Windows Server 2016, and server 1 has 2 TB of data. You need to transfer the data of storage account by using the Azure import export services. In which order should you perform the actions? To answer, the move all actions from the list of actions to the answer area and arrange them in the correct order. So here first of all we have to attach an external disk to server 1 and then run the WA import export.exe on that server, and then after we have to create a basically from the Azure portal we have to create an import job. So here is right one is here, sorry for that. And then after we can detach the external disk from the server one and shift the disk to an Azure data center. Okay, so these are three are the right one and in the sequence. Okay, so let's try to understand question number 13. So here is the hotspot is given. You have a Azure subscription that includes the following Azure file shares. So basically name, in storage account, location is given, and you have the following on-premises server. So these are the on-premises server and it contains the folders. And here we have to create storage sync services name sync1 and Azure file sync group named group1 uses share 1 as a cloud endpoint. So you register server 1 and server 2 is in sync. You add the folder on server 1 as a server endpoint of group 1. For each of the following statements, select yes if statement is true, otherwise select no. So share 2 can be added as a cloud endpoint for group 1. So if you closely look on our question, it's already say you create a storage sync service named sync1 and an Azure file sync group named group 1. You uses share 1 as a cloud endpoint. Basically group 1 is already uses share 1 as an endpoint, so we cannot assign share 2 as a endpoint cloud endpoint of group 1. So here cloud endpoint is so here we can simply say no. Here we simply choose no. And the folder on server 1 can be added as a server endpoint of group 1. Yes, we can add more than one server endpoint, so option is yes, and here also yes because it is also talking about the server endpoint. So we have to only remember the keywords. Okay, so here for cloud one endpoint we cannot update more than one endpoint for the same group, but for server endpoint we can do. So here no and yes. Okay, so let's move further and understand the last question of this session. So basically this is also a drag and drop type of question. So you have an Azure subscription named subscription1 and you create an Azure storage account named control storage, and then you create a file share named data. Which UNC path should you include in a script that reference file from the data file share? To answer, drag the appropriate value to the correct targets. Each value may be used once, more than once, or not at all. You may need to drag the split bar between panels to view the content. Okay. So here we have the some given values, and we have to answer area. So we have to drag and drop it. So here what is basically UNC path? It's talking about the UNC path. So data is the clearly in the last section, and then in first section control storage may be right because here the name of our storage account is control storage. Okay, so here in first we move the control storage, and then after we add the file core windows.net, and then we simply put the data. So right sequence is first control storage in first section, and then file core.windows.net is here, and then after data is goes to here. Okay, so that's all for this video. Okay, thanks for watching me.